I want to welcome everyone to the web share. Um, Cheryl, who's not here yet, she has been keeping a list of the topics that we bring up and so forth. And there were a couple of topics that people wanted me to talk about. One was the distinction between natural morality and Torah morality, okay, which is worthwhile issue to discuss. And the other one was our relationship with the non-Orthodox, how we relate to other, how we relate to other groups in the Jewish world. Okay, Alex, is Cheryl planning to come? I hope she does. Anyway, so I figured that one of the interesting things to start the discussion is to look at the Nishma blog. Okay, so I brought it up here, Nishma blog, and there's the address, Nishma blog, and for the people on KosherTube, they can get the Nishma blog at Nishma blog, http://nishmablog.blogspot.com, or you can get it by going to the Nishma website, nishma.org, and clicking to the link to the blog. Okay, so and this was a question that I responded to. Okay, the question was, why does Hillel choose what is hateful to you to not do unto your neighbor as his version of the entire Torah? Why not love God or keep mitzvot? Hillel's tenet is never actually mentioned in the Torah itself. That was the question that I had to respond to. And this question was asked of me from a specific site called Jewish Values online. If you want to take a look at that site, it's at www.jewishvaluesonline.org. One word, or three words, but all written together with it's one word. Jewish Values Online, and on the at the posting on the blog, I have the link to that space, and that's a very interesting website. What it is that it asks a question, and then it has groups of Reform rabbis, conservative rabbis, Orthodox rabbis, and it asks for a response from each grouping. So whenever this question is thrown out, you get a bunch of rabbis responding. Here's the Orthodox rabbi, here's the Orthodox response, here's the conservative response, here's the Reform response. And I think that's an interesting thing to do, because I think one of the problems that exists in the Jewish world is that we don't understand or recognize the theological distinctions between the branches of Judaism. Don't fully understand how separate those branches are. We think basically they're all the same, and that, the difference in terms of halachic, following halacha, Reformed or keep kosher, so on and so forth. But we don't understand that the difference in behavior comes from a theological distinction. And that theological distinction is extremely important to recognize, because it really makes for splits. So, for example, I would say even most conservative rabbis today do not believe in Yetziat Mitzrayim and Maimon Har Sinai. Most conservative rabbis do not believe in the Exodus and in the revelation at Sinai. Today, the conservative movement today. And that makes a major different statement in terms of what they believe in terms of the Torah or whatever, how they understand the works of the Torah, also in terms of the way they relate to God, where this religion came from. So this makes for a very major distinction. So I got involved with this website because I think it's important for people to see the distinctions. So when I respond, I say, here's what the Orthodox say, and I make it clear that this is the Orthodox perception. This is what I believe is the truth, obviously, but you have to know the distinction from the other groupings. I think it's very important for Jews to know the distinction from other groupings. And that already starts a certain perspective, how you look at how you relate to others, other Jews, and so forth. So that's one reason I went to this posting today. The other reason is the fact that this is a major question of morality. We talk about what is hateful to you, do not do unto your neighbor, love your neighbor as yourself. These type of things are all aspects of morality. So where did they come from? They're obviously love God, love love your neighbor as yourself is obviously a concept from the Torah. The point is, if you didn't have the Torah saying it, would you say it otherwise? Well, on the other hand, the statement of Hillel, what is hateful to you, do not do unto your neighbor, how does that express a Torah concept, and why isn't it just a basic statement of morality? It's very interesting, because when everyone quotes a statement like this of Hillel and so forth, the whole world quotes a statement like that, it almost comes across as everyone likes it. You know, it's like motherhood and apple pie. So if everyone's already quoting this idea and presenting the perspective like motherhood and apple pie, so what makes it unique? What makes it uniquely Jewish? Or what makes it unique as an aspect of our faith as distinction from other people's perceptions, even of an atheist idea? So I found it interesting that everyone likes to look at this, and that's what really underlines a certain aspect of this question. Is Hillel says, okay, the question that the person asked Hillel was, what, give me Torah on one foot, okay, teach me all the Torah on one foot, and Hillel said this is the basic Torah, everything else is commentary. The point is that it's somewhat of a what's what I'm looking for, a significant issue in terms of how does this become Torah if it can be generally accepted by all natural morality. Okay. By the way, how's my sound? Is my sound okay? Good. What's interesting is I'm not using my mic tonight. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. I'm allowing, this is for on the computer. I'm allowing the mic of the computer to work, so it seems to work fine. Okay. Anyway, so that's an interesting perspective in terms of what makes this unique to Torah and so forth. So that something comes up. So that's a little bit into the question of natural morality versus Torah morality. How are we distinct? Okay, so I went to this statement because it opens up two interesting discussions that we've wanted to discuss. We've collected discuss over the years, and that is the relationship within the Jewish world, and also the concept of the relationship of natural morality to Torah morality. The fact is that it becomes significant here in the same idea. In a certain way, natural morality is much more universal, like all human beings have. The Torah morality is much more specific, has a specific source. So so the real starting point is what do we mean by Torah? Okay, in other words, there are two approaches to Torah. One approach is just the Jewish discovery of some natural morality in humanity. This is really the understanding of, let's say, of Reform Judaism, more liberal viewpoints. It's also somewhat of an attitude in left-wing Christianity and so forth. Is that there's a concept of morality in the world. Atheists already argue why there could be morality without God or whatever, but left-wing religions, if they believe in some kind of deity, they'll say morality is all connected. But the way they understand religions and the development of different faiths is that every society worked out how to get to morality, right? Perhaps the uniqueness of the Jewish people is we're a little bit more, a little quicker with it. In other words, we got this idea and we developed it. But they'll tell you the concepts of love your neighbor were also developed by Greeks and philosophy. The idea of treating your neighbor worthwhile and so forth. Okay, so that's generally the attitude. What I'm speaking now is not the Torah attitude; it's speaking from the secular or the left-wing perspective, maybe Reform Judaism wing perspective, and so forth. Now, Alex asks the question: are we, or do we just think that we did in terms of advancing morality? It's a worthwhile question, but let's get to the Torah perspective, like our perspective, and not deal with that question from the general secular perspective. In the secular ideas, obviously the Jews stood out. They wrote the book of the Bible and so forth. So there's obviously something to the fact that the Jews discovered. But the truth is they'll tell you the Greeks came up with some of these ideas. There's a Hammurabi Code. You have some of these ideas in Confucius and Lao Tzu Tung. What's his name? Founder of Taoism. Oh, I forget. I'm sorry. Okay, but the fact is, Lao Tzu or whatever. But the fact is they'll tell you that these aspects of morality also came from it and so forth. However, the Jews were a little bit more advanced and so forth and so forth. The fact is that once you take that perspective, then basically any discussion within Torah becomes just a general discussion of morality. It's sort of like, this is what Jews said about the moral perceptions, but then after the Jews say, you can bring it into the universal discussion, which is really part of what happens when you have interfaith dialogue from a liberal perspective. Basically, it's a bunch of people getting together to talk about morality. And the distinction between the religions is only really a ritual distinction, but basically the philosophy of the theology is basically the same. This actually is something that I once read, where the liberal Judaism in Britain, which is Reform Judaism, basically asked the question, how are we different than Unitarianism Christianity, which is the most liberal form of Christianity? And their answer was nothing. The liberal Judaism said, we have the exact same theology, exact same philosophy as Unitarian Christianity. The only difference is they choose to use Christian motifs to promote their spirituality or enhance their spirituality. Jews wish to use Jewish motifs to express their spirituality. But there's no difference in theology, and that's really what's behind the whole interfaith dialogue in many ways of the liberals, is that basically it's all one big sort of like moral perspective, and we disagree in rituals, or which just developed from the fact that human beings were just trying to work out how to develop morality, and they worked out certain rituals to go along with it, but that's really only cultural and so forth and so forth. But really the movement of theology becomes universal, and that's really what happens. Everyone eventually gets to love your neighbor as yourself. And there's little movements on that, but eventually we're all going to this universal goal. Okay, so that's really behind universal morality. In many ways, you talk in terms of natural morality. It's basically what all human beings believe, and basically from that perspective, it's almost like the Judaism or the Torah was just Jews working out natural morality and putting it in a Jewish cultural perspective, but really we move from there. That's a left-wing secular form Judaism perspective, and so forth and so forth. So the point is, though, is how does Torah really look at it? What's the real Torah perspective on this? Okay? Now, what's interesting is that we've seen that the world did develop certain moral perspectives, right? It is true that the philosophers in Greece came up with some aspect of morality and treating the other well. There's some concepts like that. So the point is does that undermine the Torah perspective? So the truth is that there are many sources that point to the fact that Torah actually also believes in a natural morality. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed within humanity a natural morality. And natural morality we don't learn from Torah. Natural morality comes from reason, from our concepts and so forth. So, I believe Rabbeinu Nissim Gaon in his Hakdama to Shas, the beginning, his introduction to the Talmud, basically argues that there was a natural morality that originated with Adam and Noach and so forth, and this is the basis of the 7 Noachide laws, the Noachide code. That the Noachide code is actually the expression of natural morality, and it's universal. Okay? So there really is a natural morality in humanity. It's created from Kodesh Baruch Hu. Okay? And it's placed by Kodesh Baruch Hu into man. The truth is I've always believed that really is the story of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. But the fact is that through the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Chava learned to understood good and evil, Tov and Ra, which is an aspect of a natural morality. So the truth is that there is a natural morality. So we can't just reject, outright the fact there's no morality. There is a natural morality, and that can explain why Confucius could say some things out in China, and the Greek philosophers might have said something, and so forth and so forth. The truth is, though, from another perspective, the non-Jews did learn did start reading the Jewish Bible, and eventually, with the spread of Christianity, and they started reading statements in the Chumash that expressed what would seem to be similar to natural morality. So maybe that instigated their own development of natural morality. So the truth is because maybe from natural morality you hear a good idea, people say, hey, I like that because it touches their chord of natural morality, so they bought it. So the fact is that there's no doubt that in certain ways the Chumash extended or furthered the development of natural morality. Maybe there was a certain feeling with humanity, but there were a lot of other emotions and drives that complicated it. So the strength of the Torah touched natural morality, because it seems on the surface that there are statements in the Torah that are simply just the statements of natural morality. Okay. And the fact is the Torah on some level, since Kodesh Baruch Hu seems to put natural morality into the person, it seems to be that the Torah just might be statements of, some aspects of the Torah might be statements of natural morality. Okay. Fact is even when you get into Rabbeinu Nissim Gaon's statement that the Noachide code comes from the natural morality. And by the way, that's from Rabbeinu Nissim Gaon. The Rambam seems to take a different perspective, but the point is we're going to go with that perspective. That perspective that there's natural morality that comes from inherently in reason and so forth and so forth. So then, what's the Torah? So what is the Torah? So is the Torah just a collection of the statements of natural morality? But the point of natural morality is they would have figured it out on their own. So maybe you're going to say, well, since they needed some kind of catalyst to get the thing. Well, I explained that, which is what I said vis-a-vis the non-Jews, that the Torah might have sparked some things in them. Rabbeinu Nissim Gaon says there's another morality, and that's revelational morality. And the fact is, he already says before the Torah, is that certain laws had to be revealed. It couldn't come, certain moral concepts could not come from natural morality. It had to come from revelation. It's a very interesting concept. It means that there are certain concepts which form morality that man would not have figured out on their own. Man would not have figured out on his own or her own or whatever. And the fact is the Torah introduces these levels of morality into the world. Now, it might be that some of these rules, it's very hard to distinguish them and clarify what's from revelation and what's from natural morality, because once people start reading the Torah, and then they themselves started buying some of these revelation rules. So the fact is, when Christians started reading the Torah, maybe it just sort of, these revelation rules integrated with their own natural morality, and became so common for them that they just basically said, okay, you can't tell what was their original natural morality and what came from revelation. So that's interesting perspective. I mean, the fact is how what becomes integrated down the road. But it seems to be at some point in time, we have to say that the revelation of Har Sinai was to bring something into the world, a statement of morality that people would not figure on their own from natural morality. That seems to be what Torah is. It's forbidden. Nishma says that, is that there's an aspect of revelational morality. So, what is this revelational morality? Has a different. Okay? Okay, so let me just read what Babushka says here. Okay? Many today say that one can reach morality without a spiritual path. However, would you say that these revealed rules, because infused into the culture, became a norm that people forgot was originally from revelation? Okay, right. Became infused, right. The point is that's exactly part of the issue there. The revelation becomes integrated, revelation rules become integrated with the natural morality, and they can't tell the difference what's from revelational. But the point is, if we're going to offer that, we have to come up with some understanding of how the rules in the Torah are distinct in natural morality. It's true, people might have integrated it, but somehow there was a need at Har Sinai to say things that people would otherwise not figure out. And that's extremely important. That's extremely important. They understand what is revelational morality and how is it distinct in natural morality, right? Although eventually people out there might incorporate this revelational morality into the natural morality, and then people might forget it came from revelation. But the point is we have to be able, if we're going to use these concepts, to come up with some distinction. Okay. So the fact is changes the perspective of what happened with Hillel. If you look at this statement, non-Jew was asking, "Give me on one foot what the Torah is about." Basically, you have to say, not morality, but what is the Torah about? This revelational morality. Not what I pick up in the streets. And the truth is it's hard for people to distinguish that, because their perception is that the non-Jews had no morality whatsoever. But it seems to be that, and the truth is they may not have practiced morality, because they didn't follow Shem Mitzvah Noach, and there was idolatry, and there was barbarianism, and so forth and so forth. But there has to be something unique. When you say Torah, you're saying that it has something to do with revelation. So what's unique about this? Okay, what's the unique lessons of revelation? So, the way I understand this is that the Torah had to introduce something unique. Kodesh Baruch Hu had to give something unique to the Jewish people, and by doing so, he was saying there's natural morality, and now I'm going to add to it. Eventually, people may perceive this addition to be natural, but the fact is, what was he adding? And why did it have to be revelational? It cannot be something you could just feel on your own. It almost presents the idea that natural morality has moral perspectives. We have certain feelings of morality. Okay, what's right and wrong. Revelational morality might be is a Kodesh Baruch Hu telling us what's right and wrong, and maybe not even having any emotions with it. In other words, revelational morality is pretty simple if we think in terms of kashrus. If we think of kashrus as a moral statement, then we don't have any moral perception of it, but it's obviously moral to keep kosher. Okay, so why? Because God told us. Okay, but the fact is God told us things that seem to touch upon natural morality, such as love your neighbor as yourself. Right? And this becomes so significant as to become this major concept of the whole Torah is based upon. What is hateful to you, do not do unto your neighbor. Okay? So what really is this concept? How is this concept unique? So to truly understand the concept, you have to understand the dialectic of morality. Let's look at this idea. Love your neighbor as yourself. Does the statement make any sense? Think of it. I mean, Hillel put it in the negative, what is hateful to you, don't do unto your neighbor. But the point is, and some people say Hillel phrased it in such a way to make it more understandable to the non-Jew because he phrased it in a way that it could fit into simple natural morality. But if you look at the actual source that he's talking about from the Torah, it's love your neighbor as yourself. What does that statement mean? Love your neighbor as yourself. What does that statement mean? If you think about it. Is it possible? Is it possible to love your neighbor as yourself? The golden rule, is it possible? Do you really love your neighbor as yourself? Give you a perspective. I'll give you a way of looking at this. Let me ask you, how many of you have kids? In this year, how many have kids? Take care of your kids? Okay? Okay. Well, if my kid wants an ice cream, does that mean I have to buy every other kid in the world an ice cream? Okay? Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? Part of who I am is loving myself, is the fact that I like giving to my kids. Does that mean I have to give to everyone's kids? Well, let me put it another way. Let's say, love your neighbor as yourself. I buy myself a car. Does that mean I have to buy everyone else in the world a car? What? Oh, so that's exactly what Hillel said. Babushka says it means don't do harm to others than you would hate done to you. So that's sort of negative, which is the way Hillel phrased it, to make it more in line with natural morality. Right? And it was don't harm another as you don't want to be harmed. Okay, so I can understand that. But let's look to the original Torah statement of love your neighbor as yourself. How do you understand that? So the fact is, it's a lot of commentaries say it doesn't make any sense actually. Love your neighbor as yourself. Because there's another statement the Torah says, that says it's actually a limud from a pasuk in the Gemara. It says Chayecha Kodem, your life goes first. Okay, the classic story about the person, the two people in the desert. One person has water, the other one doesn't have it. If you split the water, both will die. So who gets the water? So the one person who has the water gets the water. Why? Because Chayecha Kodem. You have your responsibility to yourself first. That would seem to challenge love your neighbor as yourself. So the fact is, the Maharsha points out that if you look at it, it says v'havta re'echa kamocha. It doesn't say v'havta lo re'echa kamocha. It doesn't say v'havta lo. It seems to imply a certain aspect of caring. V'havta re'echa kamocha is a certain aspect of saying that it's really an aspect of respect. Respect your other as you respect yourself, which implies that respect the other person's desires and goals and objectives and dreams. The same way you want people to respect your desires in life, respect another person's desires in life. Now, that creates a very different perception. See, okay? It's a very different perspective. In the sense that it really changes your understanding of another human being. And with that change, you begin to understand the difference of the revelational perspective versus the non-revelational perspective. See, when you look at morality, natural morality, it basically, if you look at, say, the Greek philosophers, is how do you keep a society going? The goal is to maintain society. If I don't harm you, you won't harm me, we can live together. If I have to be concerned you're going to harm me, right, so I have to be looking over my shoulder all the time, you might harm me, then I'm not going to function the way it's going to build society, and then it's going to cause rifts and tension in society. Society has to have some type of mutual consideration in order to have society function. And then there's the aspects of caring, and if you want to help out the people who are downtrodden in order to maintain the function of society. It's an idea that of safety nets for society. I'll take care of you when you lose your job. You'll take care of me when I lose my job, and so forth and so forth. Aspect of age. We want to keep age understandable, so we need the younger to take care of the older to take care of the younger, to maintain some aspect of age. Natural morality works upon societal. What does V'ahavta l'orecha kamocha work on? When you take into the idea that there's also a concept of an individual being, should take care of himself first. How do you understand this moral concept, actually, of chayecha kodem, of your life is first? So I'll tell you how I think I understand it. Is that you take that case of water. One bottle of water, two people in the desert, only one of the people can get it. I've spoken to a lot of people about that case. They say they would rather, that they could not split the water. They'd be so emotionally taken, the situation, better to split the water than to hold it back. They could not hold it back from another person who would feel who you'd have the water, the other person would be dying of thirst. A lot of people say they just couldn't handle it. Just emotionally, they couldn't handle it. The fact is that that's a real perspective. But the fact is that what is the morality that says you should have the water first? What is the morality that says chayecha kodem? If you really think about it, if you look at, let's say, in classic understanding of morality is caring for the other. Okay, I sacrifice myself to care for the other. That seems to be this perception of the good person, being selfless and so forth. The Torah says, no, you have to be concerned for self. Your life goes first, as a moral statement. Well, the way that works is like this. If you see individuals as just people, then it's me, another person. You can sit there and say, okay, I got the water, I can't stand seeing the other guy dying of thirst, I'll share the water. Okay, I could even become a selfless statement. No, I'd rather sacrifice myself to take care of the other. But it's all an aspect of me and the other and individuals. The fact that I'm making decisions that I want to be selfless, the other person, another person makes a decision to be selfish. But if you look at chayecha kodem, it's basically saying, why is it that your life goes first? Not from the perspective of yourself. God tells you your life goes first, so it's from the perspective that you are really a creation of God, and it's God who really is in charge. It's not your decision to say you live versus the other person, or the other person will live over you. It's not your decision, because you both are creatures of God. And therefore you both are equal in the sense of both being creatures of God. If you make the decision, oh, I'm less than you, therefore you should go, or you're more than me, or whatever, that's me, you making decisions. But if you look at it and say, I am a creature of God, and the other person is a creature of God, then it comes down to, and this is the key word, what is your responsibility that God has given you? Chayecha kodem, your life goes first, says, you have to take care of your responsibilities first. You have a job in this world. You have a purpose in this world. You have to take care of your purpose first. Here is your job. From the perspective of God, I gave you your job, and then your job, and your job. I have to respect everyone's job. That's what Hecht means. I have to respect everyone else's rights and responsibilities. In other words, I have to see you as another creature of God with your own set of responsibilities and things you have to do. The same way as I have to know my own responsibilities. On that level, if you look at it as two soldiers in this army, well, who's the one who should go first in terms of their jobs? The general decides. You're not arguing my job. It says, okay. It says, listen, my job goes first. So Babushka says, does that mean drink the water and let the other guy suffer? The truth is, you obviously don't want to see the other guy suffer, but you have one water. If you split the water, both of you will die. You have one water. You're sitting saying, okay, who has, looking for the world of responsibilities and my obligations, who has the first right, or the first right to the water? In other words, who has to survive? In other words, which of the two people with the jobs survive? Which of the two people with missions survive? So the Torah says, Chayecha Kodem. If you're holding on to the water, then you have to take care of your responsibilities first. Your prime order is to do what God wants you to do and take care of your job. Now, Rahman al-Islam, it means the other guys suffer, but it's not because I may feel bad about that. But the fact is I have to first recognize that it's not me and the other guy making decisions. It's the general, it's God making decisions, saying, okay, your job has priority. Your mission has priority. Why? Because you have the water. He gave you the water. Now, obviously, figure out a way to try and expend that water and try to keep both alive. Obviously, that's part of it. But you see, that's the difference in revelational. When you think in terms of revelation, it's not just societal. It's not just we are a society and we try working together and building society. If you think in terms of revelation, you're thinking of God as the creator of each individual who has assigned tasks to each individual, who perceives that each individual has a purpose for being. And if that's its perspective, then revelational ethics looks at a very different meshing of individuals. It's not just trying to keep society going. Revelational ethics means you want to focus upon the development of each individual and the responsibilities of each individual vis-a-vis God's mission for them. Okay? So that's an example of it in terms of love your neighbor as yourself. And that's where you look at it from a Torah perspective, okay? That what's happening here is what the non-Jew is asking, give me one thing to stand on the whole Torah on. So the fact is that the idea is to recognize that you have responsibilities within a societal context, but also within the individual context, because God has created you. And once God has created you, you become someone who now is responsible and activated. Babushka says over here, so basically this alleviates the guilt over drinking the water. I don't know if it alleviates the guilt. I think you're still going to feel guilty. But at least you understand the perspective. You'll understand that there's a movement in this regard. Okay? Maybe. The point is you understand that I have responsibilities, and that changes with the recognition of God. Recognition of God, we're all equal, because we're all equal servants of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Which means, in our equality, we all have to see that our missions are equal. And therefore, how can we distinguish between our missions? By our own responsibility to our mission. Which includes chesed and rachamim and so forth, but it also includes meeting up your own responsibility. So therefore, concern for self becomes a value within the revelational ethical system. Anyways, this is an example of a difference of revelation. When you project God into the mix, It means that there's a different dynamic. And that dynamic is not just the dynamic of interpersonal relations and caring for others and selflessness and selfishness. The dynamic, once you throw God into the mix, is the fact that you have purpose and responsibilities and rights. But you now become someone who has to take charge. Therefore, it's extremely important that you're able to get your job done. So, for example, the Gemara says, just to give you another example in terms of a Jewish perspective, the Gemara says, "Ani kamestami." Okay, a poor person is like a dead person. The way most people hear this statement is by the story of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, when he's running away from Esav and so forth, Eliphaz, Esav's son, was ordered by Esav to go kill Yaakov. Right, when he's leaving it after he left Yitzchak and so forth, right? So Eliphaz comes up to Yaakov and says, "What am I going to do? I don't want to kill you, but on the other hand, my father told me I should kill you. What should I do?" So Yaakov says, "Take all my money." Okay, because a lot of Meforshim ask the question, when Eliezer went, to go find a wife for Yitzchak, Avram gave him wealth and so forth and so forth. Yitzchak sends Yaakov away to go find a wife. But he didn't give him anything. He comes to Lo without any money. He has to become a slave. So some people answer, the Medrash seems to answer, it's because he did have goods and so forth and money, but Eliphaz took it. Why? Because Eliphaz says, "I have a problem. Father says to kill you, but I really don't want to kill you." So Yaakov says, "You know something? Ani kamestami. A poor person is like a dead person. So take all my money, and you can say I killed him because you made me like dead because I became poor." That's a famous medrash. Anyways, the point is, though, what is this concept of ani kamestami? And why is it Judaism does find value in some development of wealth? Look around the world, all these religions don't give any value to wealth. Right? The pious people are all poor. Yet from a Jewish perspective, there's a value to wealth. Okay? Why? Because what does it mean if you have money? It means you have the power to act. It's like developing health. It's like you develop the ability to act. Therefore, you have developed the ability to do things. So if you have more money, you can do more things. So if you look upon yourself as someone who is in the service of God, and you have to develop the means to fulfill God's objective for you, then there's a value in trying to have some money to be able to have the power to act in for God's will. Obviously, you don't become avaricious. Obviously, you're not supposed to be the most important thing. But having money is not a negative thing in Judaism because it means you have the power to act. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a mitzvah. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is an orderer. He wants you involved in life. He gives you tasks to get things done. He wants you to take care of things. So revelational ethics throws a perspective into the mix that says you have responsibilities. Okay? So that's why it becomes the first statement. That's why Hill says it's so significant. Knowing the relationship of you to others from the perspective of a God, then that's significant. Natural morality is just knowing how to relate, caring for others, so forth, right? Okay, but the fact is the revelational morality gives a perception of what your responsibilities are. Okay, so I'm going to just hand over a mic if someone wants to say something. The web share. Babushka, there's a thing at the bottom that says click on the mic at the bottom there. Okay? I just have to let you do it. Okay. Okay, well.
Can you hear me? Can I get a one?
Yeah. We can hear you.
I was saying that, this is a question I've actually been wrestling with recently, and so I find this discussion fascinating. Thank you so much, Rabbi. But I know very little, so just bear with me. Now, the thing about the water, now I understood what you were saying to an extent, but I still kind of got stuck on that because that was kind of a matter of life and death there. So to me, it just seems intuitively, which I guess would be the natural morality or whatever, that it would be the opposite of the case, or at least the question would come up, well, what if this person is like somebody that's a surgeon and can save a bunch of people and you don't have those skills or something, you know what I'm saying? Something like that. So it becomes kind of like, that example was a little bit difficult for me to work through. But I think I want to ask you about this example. Like, what about like charitable giving, where perhaps you should take care of your home and your family first, and then your neighbors, and then people further away, that type of thing. And that would be, would that be like a revelation type of morality? I don't know. I think I'm just a little bit confused. Sorry.
Okay, well, the truth is that you really hit upon a very significant thing. In the sense that according to halacha, tzedakah begins with your community. It's very interesting because if you look from what I understand from a Christian perspective, if you give to someone that you like, that's not considered to be real charity. Real charity is giving to someone that that you're not close to, you never knew before, and it's totally an act of selflessness. Okay? The truth is, if you look in halacha, halacha says that you start with your family. Start with with people you're close to. Start with the community. The truth is bonds are significant. See, what happens is that our feelings are there for a reason. See, let me go back to the water case, and you raise a very significant question over there because there are some issues involved. The point, the case the Gemara talks about is, I think it's Gemara Baba Metzia. The case the Gemara talks about is that there's only enough water for one person to live. In other words, to be by the time they get to a place that has water, okay, you need a certain amount of water to get there. There's only enough water for one person to live. So the point is of this Gemara is, if you have the water, if you split it, both will die. Okay? So splitting it is also not going to save lives. So the question is, you have to choose who will live. So the truth is that Gemara says, if you have the water, you go first. Now, that's easy to see like that's selfishness. Yes, but selfishness has a value if you recognize that you have responsibilities. Now, the truth is, if you take the Gemara in Hurrius and other things like that, there's a lot of different considerations of what happens in terms of having to make broad decisions of these natures. One idea is if the person is a surgeon or whatever, but the fact is, in this case over here, and there's different questions of when you apply this case. There's issues of family going first, there's the issue that this person is responsible going first, the president should go first, and so forth and so forth. But the point is each one has to be defined a certain way. But this case is you own the water, so it's your water. So if it's your water, it means that it is there to service you. What you own is part of your ability to act. Okay? Okay? Okay, now, Babushka asked a question, how would it be changed if it was you and a child? Same issues. Same issues. Which make it very, very difficult. These are not easy emotions. And this is where revelation morality challenges natural morality. It's not easy decisions. And I'm not saying that this is easy or whatever, but it points out something to you. In the same way with when you say giving to your family first, the truth is people who apply the Christian charitable concept, well, you're getting something out of it. Of course you want to give to people you care for first because you care about them. Well, there's a reason why you care about them. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu has created you to be connected to these people. You have more responsibilities for them. towards my children. I have care for my children. I also have responsibilities for my children. And that my children have responsibilities to me. It's a very different perspective when you take the fact of, it's not just the fact that there's a deity, but the fact that the deity created responsibilities in individuals. So it becomes that our abilities, okay, like for example, I ask a question with tzedakah all the time when I want to give a tzedakah question. Okay, I say, okay, you have money, you want to go buy a toy for your kid. But with that same money, you want to buy a toy for your kid, you can save a life in Somalia. Okay? So you say, well, I get to Somalia. Fine. But whenever you go to buy your kid a toy at Toys R Us, take that money and give it to the poor person, because you'll save a kid. When you buy that Barbie for your little girl, right, it means that some kid in Somalia is not going to have food, may die of hunger. How can you ever buy your kid a Barbie? It's selfish. Well, the truth is, though, the fact is you have first responsibility to develop your kids as healthy human beings who are able to function better. So therefore, you have to understand that your responsibilities extend to your kids to build them up as healthy human beings. Buying toys to your kids to develop them as healthy human beings, that's your job. There's a very fascinating story of the Chafetz Chaim. There's a guy who was a gvir, a very wealthy guy who supported yeshivas, who wanted to drop his business and just go learn. Just sit and learn. Didn't need the money anymore, he was going to learn, so he wanted to leave business and just go learn. So Chafetz Chaim said, call him and speak to him. He said, let me ask you something. He said, if a person is assigned to the Western Front by his in the army, if a soldier is assigned to the Western Front, what would you call a soldier who runs away from the Western Front, goes to the Eastern Front, and becomes a great hero in battle in the Eastern Front? What would you call such an individual? You say, oh, hero, whatever it is. So Chafetz Chaim says, right, deserter. Okay, what are we talking about? Yeah, he did great on the Eastern Front, but his job was on the Western Front. Right? He deserted his responsibility. And with that, the Chafetz Chaim is saying, you know something? We are given jobs to do from our lives. We have to know what we have to do. And therefore, we have responsibilities. Our responsibility is to our kids first. Develop their education, their Jewish education, their ability to live and function. That's our first job. Now, a part of our job is to aniyim. Well, the aniyim in our community should go first. The fact is what we feel somehow connects. But there's a very different. That's why wealth becomes significant. Is wealth a bad thing? Well, if you only think of wealth as trying to party, yeah. But if you perceive wealth as your ability to function, you have some money so you can act, with more ability. And it's worthwhile. It's a very interesting thing about this. As a rabbi, I find it very interesting in terms of the fact that I'm always shy about going up to people as run an organization. You always have to do fundraising. It's a very difficult thing to do in terms of fundraising. But the fact is in order for me to function, for my organization to function, I have to get money in. So people make jokes. Oh, he's only in it for the money. But the truth is, I don't think I'm only in it for the money, but I need money in order to function. I have to get jobs done. Anyways, it's something to think about. But revelation changes it because it means that God's making you responsible. That's one of the aspects of revelation. Okay. There's some people here tonight I don't think you know about Nishma. So I'm just going to go to our website. Okay? And okay, I'm going to go to the website and let everyone get involved. Okay, there's the website, nishma.org, and you're invited to go to nishma.org. And it's actually underneath my picture over here. I think this is where my picture is. There's a sign-up sheet. If anyone here is not on our mailing list, you can join our mailing list, get regular insights and stuff like that. So read more of the stuff. Okay, we're going to call it a night there. Okay? And Babushka, there's... One second. There's a sign-up form. You might like some of our stuff. Okay? Okay. You can speak to Alex about it. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to call it a night. Okay? And hopefully we'll see you guys next week as well. Okay? Take care. Good night, everyone.